In order to heal Thor, he had to be reunited with the rest of the Guardians. We'll get into the Amed Rosario, Noah Syndergaard swap, the big news of the day, what it means for the Guardians, what they gained, what they lost, why they did it now, and we'll get into the Kansas City series win and looking ahead to the weekend against the White Sox as the Guardians are 2 games back of the AL Central on today's Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Justin Latta, your host today of Locked On Guardians, as Jeff continues to enjoy his vacation. Let's get right to it. There's nothing really to wait around on. I got to be honest with you guys. I don't know if that opening line lands with anybody about Thor reuniting the Guardians to heal. Unpopular opinion, I have never seen an Avengers movie. I think I saw like 20 minutes of the Black Panther, the first one. I haven't seen any of the Avengers movies, none of them. So Thor and the Guardians of the Galaxy, that could mean something. Maybe that could mean nothing. I have no idea. So I was just using that line to kind of connect the dots there a little bit. Let me know in the comments how wrong I was if you are a fan of the Avengers movies, because I've, like I said, never seen one. So I have no idea if that lands at all. Anyway, Amed Rosario should be landing in LA anytime soon to join his new team, the Los Angeles Dodgers. That trade kind of came out of nowhere. I thought it was kind of odd that both Tyler Freeman and Gabby Arias were playing on Wednesday afternoon, because as we all know, Chick-fil-A is open on Wednesdays. As Zach Meisel gave us that great flow chart on when Tyler Freeman starts or not. They did let Jose Ramirez get a day DH, which is, pretty normal, but to have both of them in on the same day and they're both playing the infield, very, very odd. So that timing of that was very curious. I didn't think there was a trade going on necessarily, but I thought it was a little odd that both of them were in the lineup and Rosario was sitting there. So this must have been in the works for a couple of hours, maybe a couple of days. Who knows? Interesting that the Dodgers had interest in Amed Rosario, because they have gone out and they have made a bunch of trades to shore up their infield. They had gone out and got Pat Valaika, who is Chris Valaika's brother, to play infield. They went out and got Kike Hernandez, former Dodger from Boston, who was over in Boston. They didn't trade. Showed a couple of bullpen arms for him. Kike Hernandez had, some value. He was not a good player this year, but had some value because the Red Sox got a couple of relievers that were close to making an impact for the Red Sox, at least guys they could use relatively soon. And then they went out and they traded for Amed Rosario on Wednesday. In return, the Guardians get Noah Syndergaard from the Dodgers, who this year, I have to look at the money. I believe he was getting 13, and Amed was getting 7.8. So there is, a $6 million difference. I don't know what's left on both those contracts. The Dodgers are sending money to Cleveland to, shore up the financials, which makes sense. So the Dodgers don't really gain anything in terms of financial flexibility. They are just loaded. I shouldn't say loaded in terms of talent, but they are loaded at middle infield options, because they've just struggled this year to have that, considering all the injuries they've had. So I truly didn't think there was a market for Amed Rosario. Like I had been saying for a few weeks now, this is going to be a boring trade deadline across the sport and for the Guardians. I just didn't see it happening. I didn't see where they were going to make any moves. I kind of thought the Guardians would just try to ride it out and hope to stay in the race until September if Bieber and McKenzie came back healthy, and see what happens. See if some guys, tick up towards the end and maybe get a little bit healthy. So a week before the trade deadline, they do move Amed Rosario, which is kind of a surprise. But the fact that they got Noah Syndergaard back, and only Noah Syndergaard, I'm not surprised by, truthfully. I don't know what people were really expecting. Not a lot of market out there. I think the fact that's what they came back with suggests that there wasn't a big market. I think that there wasn't a whole lot of suitors out there for Amed Rosario, and this return absolutely shows that. The fact that it was a week before, though, is kind of surprising. I think they might have just taken a deal when they had one. This was, Noah Syndergaard can potentially give them some innings through the end of the year. The fact that they got something in return they felt was helpful this year, somebody they could use this year rather than to get them through, rather than, getting a low A prospect or something. I'm sure they could have if they had asked. I think the Guardians taking on some of the money for Noah Syndergaard obviously helps the Dodgers out a little bit, even if they are paying off some of that contract. Getting a low A player who makes, $20,000 is a lot different for the Dodgers than it is for the Guardians. So the Guardians maybe could have had their pick of a random low A guy or high A guy. Instead, they get cash and Noah Syndergaard from Amed Rosario because they can use Noah Syndergaard here relatively soon. He is on the injured list. He had blister issues. I guess he made a rehab start on July 24th. And a rehab outing, I should say. It wasn't really a start. It was 5 innings on July 21st. He was supposed to make the next one Thursday. He made on the 21st for the Dodgers AAA team. He pitched 5 innings, gave 4 runs, struck out 2. He didn't walk a batter, give up 6 hits. We'll get into more about Noah Syndergaard in a little bit, but as I said, I don't think there was truly a major trade market for Amed Rosario out there. There weren't a lot of teams out there that needed shortstops. Honestly, all the contenders kind of have that position shored up, if you will. I mean, if you look at the standings, the Braves, they had an all-star there. They could get better, but I don't think Amed Rosario was. They did want a bench bat, which I thought was interesting. The Braves maybe could have been a fit for that. The Rangers have a shortstop. The Twins aren't trading with. The Orioles have a shortstop. The Rays have a shortstop. The Blue Jays have a shortstop. The Red Sox are getting Trevor Story back here in a few days, and the Yankees have a shortstop. The Brewers have a shortstop. The Reds, they've got a shortstop. I think he's pretty good. The Marlins, whatever. The Phillies have a shortstop. I mean, nobody needed this guy. And then I don't even know if the Dodgers needed this guy. Like right now, Miguel Rojas is their starter. Like I said, they went out and reacquired Kike Hernandez. They have Chris Taylor, who doesn't really play shortstop, just because they didn't have Gavin Lux all year for his torn ACL. So there wasn't really a market for him. So I think the fact that Guardians got anything for him just shows, like, truly the market. This was it. That was it. That was the only trade that was out there. They took it. And I think the trade wasn't necessarily, I know Syndergaard might be able to eat innings for the Guardians if he comes back healthy through the end of the year. They talked about needing a pitcher to throw some innings, and they didn't want to go back to Zach Plesac. They didn't want to go back to Hunter Gaddis, all that kind of stuff. So that helps them out a little bit. But is the Rosario trade more of, let's unclog our middle infield thing? That's the thing I think we're finally getting to, right? Is that, are they finally able to unclog their middle infield jam? They have interesting. This is really interesting. The Dodgers just announced the trade on Twitter. They announced him as an infielder outfielder, which is pretty generous. Obviously, he played some outfield here, not a lot. Very interesting. Didn't go very well. The money is a wash, by the way. So the Guardians are paying the same amount, no matter if they had Rosario or Syndergaard. So truly, it's just about clearing up roster space for Gabriel Arias, for Tyler Freeman, for maybe Ryan Rocchio. Depends on what they do with Jimenez now. And really, if they can get somebody who could potentially throw some innings for them that could be of any value. So obviously, Syndergaard was pretty good once upon a time. Not the case now. So I just don't think there was really a market for Rosario all that much when it came down to it. Everything's kind of even, and the Dodgers are getting somebody that can help off the bench. The Guardians are getting kind of a warm body. We'll see what he looks like when he comes back. It hasn't been pretty for Syndergaard this year. I think this is more about the open roster spot for the Guardians. Yes, the innings are valuable, but now they have a chance to improve themselves defensively and find out whether they win or lose the rest of the year in terms of the division. And they're only 2 back, as we will talk about today's game shortly. No matter what they do, they at least get some playing time for other guys and help out their roster a little bit in the short term. And hopefully that makes them a little bit better in the long term. We'll talk about what the Guardians are losing, what they're gaining, what Rosario could do in LA that you might not be thinking about that I'm sure will frustrate some fans. Who gets the next crack at shortstop? More about Noah Syndergaard, and we'll get more into the Guardians series win over the Kansas City Royals. We still have the game to talk about, and it was a good game. Coming up next on Locked On Guardians. All right. Well, if you are planning a summer barbecue, maybe you want to have a trading deadline party to get together. Just kidding, that's not a thing, but it would be fun if a trading deadline was a big deal like it used to be. You could have a little party to get together. You could pick up some burgers and dogs and some brews for some friends. You could get cash back with Ibotta. Ibotta gives you cash back on hundreds of items, from produce to personal care to pantry goods, so you can make sure you're beating inflation with what you're getting. You can either link your loyalty account or upload your receipt after you shop to get your cash back. It's very easy. Other apps will give you points that don't really amount to much. With Ibotta, you get real cash back that you can cash out to your bank account or through PayPal or gift cards. So when you're planning that summer event, even come to Labor Day, if you're starting to shop, consider using the Ibotta app to give yourself some money back while you're doing some shopping, because money is not infinite right now, especially with the interest rates going up. So right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 for just trying Ibotta. So use the code MLB when you register. You could just go to the App Store or the Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app and use code MLB. That is IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store. Use code MLB and you will get $5 just for using the app. Guardians will be in Chicago to start a 4-game series with the White Sox Thursday night at 8:10 local time. Listen to Tom Hamilton and Jim Rosenhaus call the action on your SiriusXM app. All you have to do is search Guardians to find the broadcast. Okay, here's the one angle I'm going to look at the Rosario thing for positively. Look, I know some people have accused Jeff and I of not liking Amed. It's not a personal thing with Amed. It never has been. It's just the way he was played here, and his skill set being underutilized, not really fitting. The offense this year. The offense in the last 2 years was streaky, but at the end of the year, he always ended up in a league average bat. That hasn't really happened yet this year. He was still kind of climbing out of that early hole. Defense has never been a big thing for him, but he had positive traits, right? There were things that Amed Rosario can do well. It's not like he's not a good major league player. The Dodgers think he can provide some value to that team. And he's going to get signed in the offseason when he becomes a free agent by somebody. He's going to start him somewhere. I don't know where it'll be and what position, but the guy has useful skills that make him a major league baseball player still. And, obviously he never reached his full potential as a top prospect back in the day, but the things we talked about that he does well that can be utilized are his speed, his ability to hit lefties, the contact rate. He does have a little bit of pop from, facing left-handers. There are things he does well. What's interesting is that he'll probably go to Los Angeles. You know what's going to happen here is that he will probably play against lefties. I don't know who they'll start against righties. I mean, maybe Amed will start against righties, but I could see them playing him mostly against left-handers and using him as a pinch runner and replacing him with Miguel Rojas late for defense, who's a good defender at shortstop. And he'll probably do well in that role because he can hit lefties and he can run the bases well. If you maximize those two things with Amed Rosario, and the Dodgers felt like they needed to get better versus left-handed pitchers. That's one thing that I think was out there, was they wanted to get better against left-handed pitching. That's why they reacquired Kike Hernandez. The Dodgers did, when they tweeted the announcement, they said that Rosario is an infielder outfielder. So I wonder if the Dodgers might be interested in moving him to different positions. That's something the Guardians tried to do, but didn't really ever get too far down the road with. They tried a couple times and just never worked. Maybe the Dodgers will make it work with him. I don't know. If those things happen, though, I think a lot of people are going to be upset in Cleveland if things like that. If he's utilized that way and it pans out and he ends up helping the Dodgers, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised at all. The other thing that I think we have to look at too is the human side of things. Obviously we know Amed Rosario is well liked in the clubhouse. He's a team leader. I know everyone, talks about the loyalty to him and his friendship with Jose and Miles Straw and just being one of the good examples in the clubhouse. This is a team that's still very young. They are still the youngest team in the league. And they're going to get younger if Brian Rocchio comes up at all to replace him or however they want to decide to use that roster spot. In the meantime, they do need a starter, I believe, on Friday. So that might be it. I don't think it'll be Syndergaard. Although it could be. Syndergaard was due to pitch tomorrow on Thursday, and he has 2 rehab outings. So I guess it's possible that his next start could come Friday night in Chicago. That would be interesting. But there's some veteran leadership lost here. Let's be honest about this. This is a young team. I think veteran leadership is a tough thing not to have for this team right now. I know things went very well last year. You had a lot of young guys that came along and did well and kind of didn't have a whole lot of rookie pains, and they're kind of going through it right now. I think having Amed Rosario for something like that is useful. They don't have a lot of that in the locker room. I mean, Jose Ramirez is kind of a leader by example, and I think Amed is too, for that fact. But I think one of the things that's going on here is that in 2016, this team was still somewhat young. They had some guys who had been in the league, didn't have a lot of success in terms of winning. They had the 2013 wild card, and after that, but you didn't have a lot of guys who were in the locker room to step up, and that was Mike Napoli. And I don't think that Amed was necessarily a vocal leader, but they might have needed a voice in the locker room who can stand up, and they may still need this, to stand up and talk about when things are not going their way and they get away from fundamentals and they do things that they need to do to win. They don't have that. I don't even know if Amed was that guy, but we do know that Amed was a veteran presence in the locker room, and he did have an impact in terms of his relationships and the off the field stuff. That stuff does matter. Okay. I know everyone wants to sit here and quantify every last metric that you can. And I'm all for that. Trust me. Jeff and I both love stats. We both love digging under the hood to find, unmeasured success that you can quantify. But these are real human beings, and this is a very young team, and they need veteran leadership. And if Amed was one of those guys they followed in terms of examples, I'm not saying they're just going to forget everything that he did or everything that they're not going to fall into bad habits or worse habits because he's gone. But, they do lose kind of a veteran voice in that locker room who had been here for a couple of years, that they won with last year, that did set a good example for young players, especially with how many were on this team. So there is that side to things. I think it's worth acknowledging those things that Amed did well. And those, like I said, all those things might show up well for him in LA. Interesting timing for the trade too. I'm not sure why the Guardians decided now to do this. I think they just reached a point where it was time to give other guys playing time. I joked last week or a couple days ago on the podcast, if you were listening, I said, really have to play the Moneyball scene out where the fake Billy Bean walks into Art Howe's offense in that movie, and he says, the lineup is yours to fill out, but you can't put Carlos Pena in the lineup because he doesn't play the Athletics anymore. That's what they had to do with Rosario. He was going to keep playing until he was traded. I think some of that was trying to increase his value, whether it was a free agent value, whether it was trade value, whether it was he was going to start turning it around and get really hot and this team was going to start winning. A lot of that just never happened. And they got something of value. They had shortstops to play, right? They have shortstops to play. They feel like they're going to get some innings from Noah Syndergaard, who should be back here soon. And I don't even know if Syndergaard's rehab stint was much about the blister as it was him just trying to figure out what's going on with him. It's a trade useful for useful. And I shouldn't say useful, but I should say areas of need on the roster. The Dodgers needed an infielder that could hit lefties to get better at, and the Guardians needed a warm body to pitch. So the trade gets made now because of the time of year, both teams finally moving in different directions on each of these players and where their season's going. But the Guardians don't know where the season's going. They did win on Wednesday. They are 2 games back. The Twins didn't lose, so we said the other day they were 4 out, and we didn't know what direction this team was going to be headed in. They're 2 back, and the Twins unfortunately do get the Royals this week, a 3-game series. So the Guardians will have to keep up the strong streak in Chicago to keep pace with the Twins. But I think now is just the time. Looks like the Guardians, this is just coming in right now as I'm recording. Oscar Gonzalez is coming up to take Amed Rosario's roster spot tomorrow. So we'll see what the move is Friday for a starter if they decide to go through their bullpen game. So Oscar Gonzalez also back on Thursday in Chicago as part of this trade. We still have to get into the Royals game. I still want to talk about Syndergaard a little bit, and we don't have much time left in the podcast. As I said yesterday, they want to keep us at 30 minutes as much as they can with this new content avenue we are going to soon. When Jeff gets back, we will start getting back into bonus episodes again, but we got a lot more to cover, not a lot of time left, and we will get everything we can here in just a moment on Locked On Guardians. All right, so we know Guardians and White Sox Thursday night, 8:10 from Chicago. Listen to all the action as the Guardians no longer have Amed Rosario, and now they're calling up Oscar Gonzalez again at 8:10 on your SiriusXM app. Just search for the Guardians. All right, real quickly, Noah Syndergaard has not been good since it's been a while. It's the last time Noah Syndergaard was useful. I shouldn't say last time. He was somewhat useful last year. He did have an ERA south of 4. He had a whip of 125, which is, it's not great, but I've seen worse. He threw a lot of strikes. He threw 134 innings. That's something. He was on a contender last year. He brought back Mickey Moniak in the trade, so he had more value last year. He had none this year. The last time Thor was Thor, though, was 2018. 2019 he threw 197 innings, but he struck out more than a batter per inning. He had a 4.28 ERA. The whip was kind of high. He gave up a lot of runs. 2021, he was missed all 2020. He was not good in 2022. He only pitched 80 innings, struck out less than a batter an inning. It's been a while since Thor has been Thor. He is not the pitcher he used to be. What he can do is throw strikes. This is a guy who's walked 9 batters in 55 innings this year. He walked 31 in 134 innings a year ago. So he's not going to walk the bases loaded. He may not have a 30-pitch inning the way that Gavin Williams did on Wednesday. We'll still fit that in here a little bit. So the Guardians do tend to have success with strike throwers. They have helped guys throw harder before. Noah Syndergaard has that in there. He is 30 years old. I think he'll be 31 here. Next month he'll be 31. His fastball velocity has gone down every year over the last couple of seasons. So I don't know if the Guardians have enough time to help him regain what he has lost in that term. But if they do move Syndergaard back in the right direction at all, that might be their biggest reclamation project ever. It's 1.5 months, and he's been pretty awful. If the Guardians somehow turn him into a useful starter, it's their best reclamation project ever. I don't know what they'll do with him. I don't see anything on there. Like I would say, throw the sinker a lot less. Yeah, sinker was his primary pitch. Can they get him to throw his secondaries a little bit more? He used to have a very good curveball. He used to have a great changeup. He has kind of gotten away from using the slider in the last couple of years. Can they bring the slider back? A lot of things there. I don't know if they have enough time to do all that with him, but an option here to potentially get a useful starter. And what this says too, if he's going to start for them, no Plesac, no Gaddis, no Cantillo. Don't want to go back to that route. Cody Morris threw 46 pitches in AAA on Wednesday. They're trying to stretch him out a little bit. They keep going with bullpen games. So they said they wanted an innings guy the rest of the year. They feel like Syndergaard can give him that. And we'll see if they can turn him into anything. If not, he is just an innings leader and it's a placeholder. And you see what happens for the next month or so with him. It doesn't look pretty, but maybe there are some signs there they feel like they can fix something with him, or it was just a deal where they could even out the cash and get somebody who can throw innings for them because that's what they needed. But hey, if it's a team that can turn them around, maybe it's the Guardians. Imagine telling a Mets fan in 2016 about this trade. Noah Syndergaard was a big part of the Mets World Series run. Amed Rosario was a big time prospect for them at that time, and things have gone very south for them in the last few years. Okay, this game on Wednesday, the Guardians, for the first time, as I said, all year, were able to win a third straight series. That's the first time they've done that all year. The Mariners handled the Twins, so the Guardians moved to 2 games back in the Central. That is good news because the Guardians have to face the White Sox, who Lance Lynn is pitching tonight for them, and he may be traded after that. Who knows? In that series, too, by the way, we have Tanner Bybee on Thursday, so you're getting off to a good note. You're throwing your best pitcher on Thursday. Dylan Cease, they are throwing their best pitcher. Friday, Lucas Giolito for the White Sox. The Guardians TBD. I don't know if it'll be Noah Syndergaard. We'll see. Logan Allen goes for the Guardians on Saturday, and Aaron Savali on Sunday. We'll see if that's his last spot. Noah Syndergaard is going to join the Guardians in Chicago tomorrow. He will throw a bullpen session. Could join the rotation after that, but it will not be Friday. It probably won't be him Friday. We'll see. Unlikely it's him on Friday. Tough outing for Gavin Williams. He pitched good. I will give him credit. He got out of some tough jams early. He had a 30-pitch inning. His first inning was interesting. He, is still battling that blister, it looks like, a little bit. The control was kind of up and down, and he was getting a lot of balls fouled off. The velocity was down in the first inning. It rebounded. He even threw a 3-2 changeup to Michael Massey, which he fouled off. And I was like, wow, he threw like 3 straight fastballs to Michael Massey on 3-2. He had a long battle with Massey. And then he went out and threw a changeup. And I'm like, you just threw like 2 fastballs in a row to him, 3-2. And you get, really ballsy out there throwing a changeup, which is not Williams' best pitch at all, 3-2. And he ended up walking him, but it's fine. I thought it was an interesting outing for him. They pulled him early because of the pitch count, because of the blister. Went to the bullpen. Obviously, a good day for the offense. Jose Ramirez, 3 for 4 with a pair of home runs. Jose Ramirez passes Hal Trotsky for 11th place in franchise history with home runs. Home run number 1 was 759. Home run number 2, that can't be right. So it's 760. I don't think Jose Ramirez has 760 home runs. Let me double check that stat. I think that was a bad tweet somewhere, or a tweet that I might have misread. Yeah, that would be runs scored. That was run 759 and run 760, not home run 760. That'd be quite interesting. Still a good day from Jose Ramirez. Good to see that. That pitch that Alec Marsh threw down the middle was going to be hit out of the ballpark by anybody. Great day for David Fry. That was awesome to see. I know everyone was kind of like up in arms about Bo Naylor not playing. I told you guys, day game after night game, I think you should be happy that it wasn't Cam Gallagher playing and David Fry hits a home run. Look, every day is Friday. Every day is Friday. Fry should play every day. Is he going to play less now with Oscar Gonzalez coming up? I don't know. Maybe. That would be disappointing, truthfully, the way David Fry has played. But I think that Cam Gallagher's days here are kind of numbered. As I know, defensively, that he is the best catcher of the 3 right now. But the way those 2 guys are hitting, I think they have to play every day. And the other question here now is, who gets the most starts at shortstop? Is it Freeman? Is it Arias? Do you move Andres Gimenez to shortstop? I am guessing that they will probably split time with Arias and Freeman, and Gimenez will stay at second base because they're not going to want to upset the balance there and make too many changes at once. I wouldn't be surprised if Gimenez gets some time at shortstop, but I think you will see a split amount of time between Arias and Freeman. Other concern I would say, though, is the bullpen on Wednesday. Nick Sandlin allowed a run. He was kind of shaky, and Eli Morgan walked a batter and gave up 2 hits. Michael Kelly allowed a run. Xavier Curry allowed a run. So bullpen had to pitch, and it was a blowout, and they gave some runs, so it was fine. They got through it. A little bit concerning there, so we'll see. They got Tanner Bybee on Thursday. Hopefully that can lessen the need for. I know they didn't throw their best relievers, but still always shaky to see that with the way the bullpen's been lately. We'll see who's starting at shortstop on Thursday in Chicago. We'll see who's in the lineup overall. We will see what the Guardians have to say about Noah Syndergaard. No more Amed Rosario. we'll see if the Guardians are more active at the trading deadline after this comes up. Thank you all for listening, for downloading, rating, reviewing. It helps. Please leave us a review wherever you can. And we'll end the podcast. Go, Guardians, go.